Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are in studio in Melbourne and the great Jordan Kidis has flown down from Sydney.
I have.
Why'd you giggle?
I've never been referred. But thank you. Yes, down in Melbourne. Went for a walk this morning along the Yarra interval walk run.
Nice.
Yeah.
Something new?
Yes. Yeah, I always do it when I come down here. But when I'm home in Sydney, I don't do it, to be honest. So
new environment.
Got to start doing it, I think.
New environment, new routine.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Exercising in the morning is a good way to start the day.
Yes, it is. It is. How's work been the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, pretty chaotic, to be honest. We've brought on a lot of people. We've done a rebrand as well, which is
topical.
Very topical. So that's been really interesting, to be honest, and happy to unpack what I mean by that. But that's been something I thought we would have to do a lot of, like be really involved, but using Soph, just fantastic.
Amazing.
Like hand being held the whole time. This is what we're doing. This is what it looks like. And look, we'd get a few different concepts and then we'd pick a concept and then, deep dive again and then more would come out of it. So it was a really interesting experience. And it's really not just, here's your logo, done. Colors, psychology, all of that stuff that I had no idea about.
That's awesome.
Really interesting experience.
Great. Cool. Well, yeah, very topical because that is what we're going to talk about today is the importance of nailing your brand. So we'll talk about branding. We'll talk about rebranding. And yeah, exactly what you guys went through with Grayspace. So I think we can also maybe dive into the time investment. I think will be an interesting one. And, some of the pros and the cons of when you do it right and when you do it wrong, and what that can mean for your business.
Do you enjoy it? The branding side of things, getting branding projects?
Yeah, I think they're great. I love doing branding and rebranding. I think it's fun to dive into all of those things that you said about like the brand narrative and like understanding that it is more than just like a logo and colors, and it's actually about your personality as a business and how you make people feel. It's fun. It's really fun to kind of come up with that sort of stuff.
Our first logo, Daniel created it, I think, in 10 minutes. And you can tell an accountant did it. It was served its purpose up until now. Sorry, Dan. Stick to accounting.
So, I mean, maybe to start with it, what was like the catalyst for Grayspace doing the rebrand?
To be honest, Owen did it. Yeah. And I was like, it's time that we do this too. Because, again, never thought of it. And Owen did it and we saw how his was. And every time we would see the progress and how, again, concept to it being finished, just like, wow, every time like, wow, this is awesome. This is awesome compared to ours. And ours was just when we say branding and rebrand, it was a logo and then it was an Elementor template.
Yeah,
so
nice.
That was our brand.
Yep.
Whereas seeing the steps that Soph went through to do the Rask one, I was like, you cannot compare what we've got to this.
Yeah. So
to be honest, it was seeing Owen go through it. Dan and I were really happy with the process. And obviously I was speaking to Owen and getting some feedback from him. And yeah, followed the master.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they both look great, both yours and the Rask rebrand. What do you think is sort of the biggest misconception people have, or what might you have had before going into this process with Sophie about branding and rebranding?
Oh, just a couple of colors and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's really not. I remember when we had our first session, like brainstorming session, and we gave some inspo to Soph. And then Soph came back with all of these concepts and I was like, oh, wow. Like there's these minute differences. And I remember going through them on Figma and just like it was information overload, to be honest, because I thought, oh, yeah, we like bit of purple, bit of white, some black, and that's it. But it's just, there's so much more to it that I had no idea about.
So maybe we can talk through the process because you said obviously there was like a brainstorming session and there was concepts that came out of it. What was the process like? What were some of those key stages that were involved in the rebrand for Grayspace?
Yep. The first meeting we had with Soph, well, before the first meeting, we filled out an information request. What our colors are, current logo, our values, some other competitors, and like what we like. And they weren't just competitors as well. It was pretty much any branding that we liked. And that was pretty much it, to be honest. And then from there we had our first few concepts, color and whatnot, and the different themes. You're gonna have to tell me if I'm using the wrong words. I
Sounds great so far.
And yeah, we had a meeting with all the concepts. Like I've pulled them up now, and like geometric shapes, 3D layered elements, empty versus full space is one concept. Second concept, like focusing on scale and what that looks like, growth through shapes, like all of this stuff I had no idea about. And I'm like, makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense. Again, like these sessions, and not just like here, this is what it is, but there's information about why you would use this concept, why you would use that concept. So it was concepts, and then it was logo design, I think. Yeah. Because we redid the logo, which you can see on our website. So gsadvisory.com.au. Check it out. Let us know what you think. I think it's great.
I think it's phenomenal. Yeah. It's so cool.
Very happy with how it turned out. So logo design, and then once we picked the style, the concept, then it was build out of everything.
Right.
And then even now we're still going through the process where it's like updating everything. So new style guides for like socials, our little things, notepads, email footers, like all of that stuff.
Yep.
So we're just working through the final stages of that now, and then it's all done.
Yeah. How cool. Because I think as you were chatting, it sort of shows that, and you were going through some of those concepts that Soph initially sent through. And it really does go beyond just, hey, you like purple? Well, here's a purple concept, and here's a yellow concept, and here's a white concept. And it really is talking about like growth through shapes is such a cool analogy or like metaphor of like trying to talk about how something can scale and grow and how you can represent that in a way that's different to just like text or like telling people that's what you do. And so it really does dive into, I guess, the story of your business and the personality that you want to convey. Do you feel like there's more personality coming through the brand now?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, there's more colors. We can be colorful. Shapes.
Did you go into it with any like, I guess, brand values that you were like, this is what we want to show up for. This is how we want to show up?
Yeah. Like our biggest value, and it's something that we always strive to keep. It's even with growth, because, with growth, sometimes things break and things get missed, but it's always client first. I hope that's conveyed. I mean, on the front page, the homepage, it's got grow your business with bespoke financial advice, and we really want to keep that because every business is different. You tell me, do you think our colors and shapes project that? You would know better than me.
I really like it's brought in different landscapes, like the mountain kind of landscape. It's brought that in. It's just added, I think, different like layers, which I don't know, maybe that kind of goes into that like business is deeper and there's so much more involved than just here's a, slapped on business strategy for a plumber. Here's a slapped on business strategy that's copy and pasted for this. It's like there is different layers, and I guess the depth that you guys can go into with businesses is quite different.
Yep.
And I like the colors that have been brought into it as well.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even realize that, but yeah, you're right. Different landscapes, different businesses.
Yeah, because like businesses, there's a different landscape for different industries, like a different business landscape.
Yeah. It's like an onion. Branding.
Augers. Have layers.
Exactly. Like things you don't even think of. Do you think at the start, so question for you, when you're starting out, is this something that's super necessary? Because it can be an expensive exercise.
Totally. I think it's interesting. I think there's a few different schools of thought. I think until you have a business it's a good question. I actually don't know where I sit on this, because I'm like, this looks phenomenal and your old branding was also fine and it got you to where you got to, and it got you to a point that then you could afford to do something like this and you could have a really scaled up, leveled up kind of, I guess, digital presence. But the initial kind of concept that you had was enough to kind of get you off the ground to essentially build an MVP that you could be like, this is our business, this is what we're offering.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think it's hard because obviously it can be quite costly getting involved with doing a whole rebrand or a whole branding exercise, because you're bringing a specialist on board. And as you said, it is more than just, cool, let's jump on Canva and whack a couple of things together and get the color wheel and get it to do complementary colors. So there's so much more involved. But I think the perception of your business now compared to what it was, like the trust that people would have in Grayspace as a result. And I think it really does kind of build that recognition as well.
I have a school of thought on this from like setting up your branding from the start.
Yeah.
When we started the business, that was a chat that we had. It's like, what are we going to call it? What are we going to call it? What's the logo going to be? And it was just so much time. And after speaking to people, many business owners, it seems like it's very common. And I said, Dan, doesn't matter. I don't care what we call it. Just get it done. Because at the start, it's not important.
Yeah.
There's so many other more important things. But I find that us business owners, we get so caught up in that, the logo, the color, this. And look, I could be wrong. That's just my personal opinion. I think that at the start, just whether it's a service or your product, just get it out to market. Just get going. Start working. Don't spend 5 hours thinking about, should I use a capital G? Should I use a lowercase g? Or should I use purple? Or that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's where I see it.
6 weeks, then like not important.
Totally. And it's like this kind of process can take 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes it can take 3 months, depending on, what you're doing and the scale of the project. And I think that it's particularly in those first like 6 to 12 months, in the first 3 months, it's like, is that where you want to be? It doesn't actually generate your business, right? Like it's not sales calls, it's not discovery calls, you're not networking, you're not putting your product together or your service together, you're not understanding your pricing, you're not doing any target market research. So it's like there's so much that you could be doing that's actually going to generate revenue. And I feel like in the beginning, that's probably the core focus.
Yeah.
To just say, okay, well, does this business even have legs?
It's a funny one because people will say, okay, I'll give myself 2 weeks to come up with the logo, and like it's 80 hours.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
I think that you just can't do that because again, if you give yourself 2-3 weeks to do it, it's Parkinson's law. So it's going to take you that long to do it. Whereas at the start, that's why Dan and I was like, you know what, whatever you want. By tomorrow, whatever you've come up with, we're doing it because it's not important at the start. And I'm talking like right at the start where it's just like Dan and I, not much money. All we need to focus on is getting the work out and bringing work in.
Yep.
And not what the business is called and not what color the box is and do we use a square, do we use a rectangle? I could be wrong. That was just what
well, it'd
our
be
experience.
interesting if anyone's listening to this and they have a different opinion or they've gone through the process in a different way, because we kind of inflection started in the same way as it was like, cool, let's just like whack something together and like put a website together pretty quickly.
Do you think it's different for a service-based business compared to an e-commerce business or a product-based business?
That's a good call. That's a good point. Possibly.
Yeah, because for me, personally, if I saw like an e-commerce business and I wanted to buy some t-shirts and their website was like,
yes,
bit how you going?
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, no.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is like with a service-based business, it's like the website isn't the product that you're getting, if that makes sense. It's like what you're getting is the service at the end of the day. So you kind of go, okay, well, I don't really care if it's called GS Advisory or Grey Space Advisory. At the end of the day, the work that they're doing for me and my business is good, and that's it.
Yep.
But with a product, you've got something in your hand that when you buy a product, I guess it also has to represent you in a way, and it has to represent your values and what you stand for. And so if you're buying a product and it kind of turns up and the branding is a bit crappy and the box is flimsy and all those sorts of things, I think it does have a different impact.
I agree. I haven't actually thought about it before. I've been sitting here preaching that
I guess
2 years now, and I'm like,
quite often
does that apply to everyone?
Yeah. Quite often we both talk about it from the service-based business. But I think it makes a much bigger difference in e-com.
I agree. I challenge myself, disagree with myself. I think service-based, maybe not. I could be wrong. Not so much a big deal, but maybe e-com, because you need to have that trust. It's like if it's a foreign brand or a brand that you haven't come across before, it's like, is this legit? I'm being scammed here.
Yeah. And I think also with like a service-based business, you can build the trust through conversations.
Yeah.
Like you can have discovery calls or, you can do free quotes and those kinds of things. And that's where you can build the trust and you can build that reliability. But I think with e-com, it's like first interaction that they have with your business is the website or your social media or wherever they found you. Product in the supermarket line or supermarket aisle, and you're looking at the design of a product.
Yeah, correct.
So
especially in the service space as well, a lot of your initial clients will be word of mouth referrals.
Yep.
So again, it's not that important. It's just the person. That's why they're coming to you.
Yeah.
Again, getting on the phone, good phone manner, being able to converse person to person. So interesting one.
I think also over time, like the recognition that your brand builds, particularly for like, well, any business, but like from a marketing perspective over time, if you've built that strong brand recognition, it can help to reduce long-term like acquisition costs for customers, because like with a service-based business, the acquisition cost is that word of mouth referral. As a product-based business or, you know, an e-com based business, it is like a visual kind of representation of like, oh, you've seen that on your friend's shelf at home, and that's the product or that's the branding or that's what the, you know, the colors look like or whatever. So then you can kind of go and you'll be like, oh, that's it. That's what my friend spoke about. That was the product that they used. And so I think that over time, it also helps to help build that brand trust as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we've spoken about like generating revenue and customers and perception for customers, but the big thing for us as well, and it was something I spoke to Owen about, was having a website that would will attract staff, because it's something that we've always struggled with being a small business. And it is a bit easier now, but being able to attract really good staff, I feel like, again, could be wrong, just my opinion, that having good branding and a well-rounded brand position helps with that. And what I mean by brand position, I don't even know if I'm using the right words.
I like it. Keep going.
Brand position is like the website and the social media and what that looks like. The podcast, again, because there's not many accountants that do a podcast. There's a couple. Ours is the best, no bias. But I feel like having a well-rounded strategy around brand does help with staff. It's like, oh, you guys do a podcast, unheard of. Unheard of. We've been doing it for almost 2-3 years now. And we've been able to build that recognition in the industry. So that was one of the big reasons that I never thought about before, because I always thought exactly what you said, customers and generating sales. But for us, the big reason for pushing ahead was that staff and being able to get staff, because if we want to continue to scale, we can't do that unless we have good staff. And I know getting staff is hard regardless of your industry, but especially in the accounting industry now, given that 50%, I think it was 57% of accounting firm businesses are looking to transition into retirement over the next 5 years. It's a very aging profession, and there's not a lot of younger people coming into the profession. So I feel like it's becoming really important to try and do everything you can to get staff. Yeah,
totally. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that there's probably a different set of criteria that people are looking for in a business, in terms of like an employee going to work for a business. What people used to look for into, you know, it was either they set it up themselves or it was, you know, a different sort of psychology. But I think that team culture, company culture, brand personality, and being able to align themselves with a business is really important. And it's something that a lot of people are considering. And if there's not a huge kind of, I guess, talent pool out there, then if those people are choosing where they're going to go, you want to kind of show up as one of the more enjoyable workplaces.
Any business, it's important. If you're trying to hire staff, the first thing anyone's going to do before pressing apply on Seek is Google the business.
Yes.
And if your website is ancient or there's just nothing, then you may not be able to get any staff. And look, it depends what business you're in, what industry. Again, I'm referring to service businesses.
Yes.
Just something to think of, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think in the same way that we were talking about, like for customers and for employees, it simplifies in the customer frame of things. It simplifies that purchase decision because they see the brand, they're more likely to convert. Yes. They've built some trust. They understand the personality and the brand values that are bleeding through the digital identity or the brand identity. And then on the flip side, for employees, they're looking for the same sorts of things. Yep. Do I trust this business? Do I like the sound of this business? What does their personality look like? What are their brand values? And so either side of the table, whether it's customers or employees, it's having really strong branding, having built that trust and that recognition actually simplifies that buying decision for the person, which increases their chance of conversion or increases their chance of applying for the job. And if it's a customer and they like the product, it's going to increase their repeat kind of buying decision as well. And then they become a lifetime member. And the same with employees. If they kind of get into your organization, they go, oh, hey, the brand values and the culture in the company is accurate in terms of what's reflected on the website or socials or, you know, the digital presence. it's going to increase their retention rate at the company as well.
For sure. How would you measure if you've done a rebrand? How would you measure it?
I think there's probably a few different ways we could look at it. I think first thing you would do would be, obviously you're going to be announcing it through like social media or those kinds of things. So just seeing what like the engagement rate is and that feedback. I think like customer surveys, I know when Owen was doing the rebrand for Rask, he sent out a whole bunch of surveys through that process to understand what people liked, what people didn't like, so that when the decisions were made and the branding was made, and I did an interview with him maybe like 3 months ago on the Rask rebrand, and we kind of spoke about that as well and that process. And he said it just made it easier to make the decision of like, okay, this is what our customers want. They've told us this is their preference. And then when it was executed, obviously it's been so well received. And so you can also do that throughout the process, but you can also do it at the end of the process and just get that feedback. TBH Skincare did something the other day. I know we've spoken about them quite a bit on the podcast, but they're launching into a different market and they had to talk about the branding and the product name and what they were going to do. And essentially the founder of the business put up like a whole bunch of social media stories on Instagram and TikTok and said, help me. What decision should I make? This is where we're at. These are the reasons we have to do it. What do you think? And then obviously the decision that they've made is based on feedback that they're getting from current customers.
There's a influencer or business person who I follow on YouTube and Instagram, Alex Hormozy.
Yes.
And he does the same thing through Instagram surveys. Hey guys, option 1, option 2, what do you think? And that's how he goes. They'll go, okay, cool. Option 1 got the most votes, and then they'll concept out of that, and then it keeps branching out. So
yeah,
super interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool the way that, on a bit of a tangent, like social media can be so much more than just like showcasing products and those kind. Like you really can use it as like creating customer loyalty and use it as a platform to get feedback from people. There's a nutritionist that I follow on social media, and she's launching a swimwear line. But before she did it, and every stage of the process, she's logging it on social media and she's saying, hey, this is a cut that we've designed here. These are our thoughts. What do you think? Hey, this is this other cut. This is another cut. This is like, as in like a cut of swimwear. Like this is what it sits like on the back. This is what it sits like on the tummy. This is what it sits like on the bust. And like getting people to tell them what their concerns are with current swimwear and how they can change it and what colors they want it in. So then when you actually do launch it, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself sales.
Yeah.
Because you've built a product that people have said, hey, I want that exact thing, or you've built a service, I want the thing that I helped you build.
Yeah.
And so they've bought into that customer journey as well.
For sure. And if you don't have a following, you can still do it on your personal Instagram.
Yes.
You know, even if you get 10 or 15 responses, like that's fine. So lean into your own network on that specific example.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I've spoken about it with Owen a little while ago in the Inflection community, but before Inflection, my husband and I were looking at doing another business. Have I told you about this?
Maybe.
I know, like the co-working space.
Oh, yes, you have. Yeah.
And so we obviously didn't have a huge network of people in the community because we'd recently just moved areas. And so we kind of created this survey. We had a QR code. We put it around town and we tried to get feedback from people based on, you know, how much they would pay, what they would want, what services they'd want. You know, did they want a printer, a fax, you know, all these sorts of things. What was a key consideration for them coming? How frequently would they come? All these sorts of things. Would they want like networking? And it was great because we were so excited about this idea. And I think it was just because we wanted this thing. And the feedback that we got was like very much enough information to be like, hey, don't do this. Don't go ahead with a co-working space because it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
No one wants it. Or if they do, they want everything for a very small price. But yeah, it's just like you can do it before, you can do it after, you can do it throughout. But I think customer surveys, engaging your existing database is really good. And then obviously on that final end is like sales.
Yeah.
Either the adoption of the service, how many people buy the product, and then you've got like a revenue figure that you can attribute to the rebrand.
Was the main reason you didn't go ahead with that share space, that co-working space, because that outreach to your network?
It was a few things. That was a core thing. A lot of the feedback that we got was we'd looked at a few properties and we'd found out like what the lease would cost. And then from there, we'd been like, okay, well, if it costs this much, how much money do we need to bring in to break even? How many desks do we need to sell each week? And so we'd kind of been like, okay, this is how much money we need to make every day. This is how much, or like how many desks we need to sell every day. This is how many we need to sell every week, every month to kind of make ends meet. And then this is what we would like to hit. And so we kind of worked it out over a 2-year period of like, cool, if we could do this for the first 6 months and just break even, sick. And then if we could start to see a profit from that 6 to 12 months. And so the first thing was like, no one wanted to pay what we thought it was worth. I think someone wanted to pay like $12 a day or something. But they also wanted like printing and like their own desk that they could like not have to move from, and they wanted what they called like shelves, lockable shelves, and they wanted a second monitor, and they all of this. And part of the
pricey,
yeah. And part of the thing was like, cool, what if we had a podcast studio? Would people want that? Like
double pricey.
Yes. Anyway, so that was the first factor was like, okay, cool, no one wants to pay for this.
Yeah.
But then also how frequently people wanted to come. We had this idea of being like, oh, people want to come like 2 or 3 days a week. Like that'd be maybe twice a week, regional town. It's about an hour from Melbourne. They'll probably commute once a week. They'll work from home 2 days a week.
Sure.
So we'd kind of, I guess, come up with this narrative. And the data that we got back didn't feed the narrative. So that was, for the costs for what people wanted. So yeah, I think we also had this idea of building it out into sort of like a networking, like we could have like networking events and like people could mingle and get to know one another. And we could showcase different businesses and do like education events where if there was like a marketing professional, they could do like
like a talk of some sort.
Yeah, like a TEDx kind of thing. That was part of the pitch. But yeah, it could also be that maybe like the clientele of people that did fill it out wasn't the right demographic, but it was enough for us to be like, okay, I think we're going to hit a pause on this for now.
Yeah, okay.
And then I do think that possibly in a few years' time when the demographic in that area starts to shift a little bit, it is starting to shift and there's quite a huge movement of like younger people moving to that area, but I think there's still a bit more of like an aging demographic that's probably moving out of work that doesn't necessarily need, or there's a lot of business owners in our community.
Yeah, cool. Bit of a tangent.
Bit
but
of
a good
tangent.
One. I like it. It's a good story and it does relate in terms of that outreach to community and your own network before jumping in and making a decision. And look, it can be hard sometimes because you're so emotionally charged on this new business idea and it's going to be great. And then you put the poll out and it just comes tumbling down. But sometimes it can be for your benefit.
Totally.
Sometimes you just do what you want.
Yeah. And we did do the thing where we were like, okay, let's come up with a business name and a logo and like a general concept.
Yep.
But we spent maybe 3 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Like we were like, we're not getting too deep into this. What do you think are the potential cons of a rebrand? Like, are there any situations where a rebrand could actually be like detrimental or could hurt a business, do you think?
I think the only time it can hurt a business is if you can't afford it and it's like there's so many other things you should be spending money on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do. I think it's just from a financial standpoint, but and you want to obviously make sure that the person that you've engaged to do it has credibility, they've done it before, because again, it can be expensive. So it just depends. If you're starting out, I wouldn't suggest doing it because pricey. You're better off spending that money on staff or on your product or marketing to generate more work as opposed to brand. In my opinion, I could be wrong. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think, it depends on finances is probably numero uno. I think then secondly, if it's done poorly, I think I've seen it done poorly before. And it can actually like really confuse people because if it hasn't been communicated well, there's no strategy behind the decisions that have been made. And then people kind of go, what is this?
How does it go bad?
Well, yeah. So I think if you don't have a strategy in place of like, maybe you've just been like, yeah, cool, let's just do a rebrand, sick, why not? And you don't have any reason for it, you end up kind of wasting a whole bunch of time and money, obviously. But also without that strategy of like, cool, this is why we're doing it. This is what we want to convey. These are the brand principles or the brand values that we want to communicate. This is who our target market is, all these kinds of things. And then I think if you haven't engaged someone that you've seen their work before or anything like that, and it does go poorly, whether it's the execution itself, like the product, as in like the rebrand isn't good. But also I think I've seen it done where there's a branding specialist has decided that, or for whatever reason, has taken on the web development side of things. And then the execution on the web. So like someone that does the rebrand has then been like, yeah, cool, I'll build it out onto your website as well. But then the build on the website is glitchy.
Okay.
And so, you know, all of what you essentially were sold in your branding kind of proposal doesn't look the same on the website because they don't have the skill set to execute it as what it looks like in your kind of proposal. And I've seen that done before. And that obviously then is like a direct correlation with the experience that a customer has on your website.
Yeah, cool.
Which can be really harmful. And then as soon as you start having like glitchy issues on your website, people go, oh, I don't trust this brand. What's going on? I'm out of here. It's too hard. I'll find somebody else. Interesting.
I never actually thought about that. Can it go wrong? I didn't. I just thought, yeah, it's cool. It's all good.
But I mean, you worked with Sophie's a professional.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, she knows what she's doing. She's been doing it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, lastly, if there was someone that was like, listen to this and they were like, okay, cool, I think I'm in a similar position to where Grayspace was, that they got to a point, they have decided they want to do this rebrand. What's a piece of advice that you would give them? Where should they start?
I would reach out to, so I was lucky. I've got, you know, yourself, Owen. I can reach out to them and say, hey, what do you think? Because if I didn't, to be honest, and if Owen didn't do his, I don't know if I would have done mine.
Okay.
So I think the best thing to do is probably get on a call with yourself.
Yep.
Because you would give the honest truth.
Yeah.
If the money is better spent elsewhere. Yeah. Again, you do want to be an established business and have decent turnover and profit as well, because it's a big spend, and there's not going to be yes, we've spoken about sales and whatnot, but there's not going to be a direct correlation as there would be correlation to sales as there would be if you were to put it into Google ads or Facebook ads. So I think the best thing to do is probably book a call. That way you can get some honest advice if it's the right time for you to do it.
Yep. I agree.
Free plug.
Thanks, Jordan.
That's all right. But yeah, it is important to do. And I mean, you can see some of the work that we've done before. There's the Rask website, which is fantastic. There's our website, which is very cool as well. Yeah. Just to rattle off a few. So if it's something that you're interested in, just book a call. The link's in the show notes and ask all your questions.
Yep, absolutely.
Good stuff.
Thanks for today, Jods.
Thanks, Zara.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.